Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
Good. Yeah, definitely psyched for the weekend.
hmm
Um,
Okay, I'm pleased you're on today because I've got quite a sore throat, so I hope I won't have to do too much talking today. Um,
yeah.
but anyway, you see, somebody has leaked, to start with, um, information, whoever this EV guy is.
The blown up on the Google Plus forums. It's interesting. I mean, honestly, like if it is that big, it's probably a good thing just for more thermal reduction.
Yeah? Mm.
But who knows? It's
Shit.
all it's it's all like getting defined, this week. So.
Exactly. Yeah, if people can hang around till Thursday, they'll find out the truth.
Yeah, and I mean, it's exciting because now there's a date and now there's momentum behind it. So,
So how's stuff going? I see you've been pumping out some updates.
yeah, so kind of in my world, it's like, okay, let's just try to get some cardboard apps working with like Tango right
Mm.
now for the release.
Yeah, dude, wicked tutorial. I added it to the tutorials page in the wiki.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, thanks for doing it, man.
I'm kind of like, so that's an interesting thing. Over the past week, I've been like watching a lot of just Unity tutorials in general, and then like also stuff around the VR development space.
hmm
And kind of the idea is like, okay, I should at least try to do some stuff around mobile VR
hmm
because there doesn't feel like a whole lot. But I don't know.
Right.
I'm certainly excited. I think the next project I'm gonna try to work on is like because right now it's like the whole entire place is or the VR Unity space is so fragmented with like normal cardboard, Daydream, and Tango,
hmm
and so it's like try to build just a general VR kind of controller that switches depending on which platform.
Oh, like a nice Unity prefab.
Yeah, just something that like works in the sense that no matter what, like you instantly start with all the development environments to work in, and then it just loads up the right one according to which device you have.
It would be nice. I don't think people are putting together cross-platform graceful degradation yet.
Yeah, it's interesting how fragmented the space is right now. Like there was a lot of talk at I/O is what it felt like of like promoting the fact that it all can work on one app, and like it's honestly not that hard to do. It just like it's this like barrier right now where I go into a cardboard, SDK and I like make, like an hour of changes just to the standard UX stuff, and it's like, okay, what happens if I could just hook it all up and integrate it and then like talk about it to get more people
Well,
behind it?
yeah, there's a bunch of people online already. So I can see Sam's here. Hey, Sam.
Hey.
Zaid's here as well. Hey, Zaid. I take it you landed safely.
Hey, yeah, good morning.
Good morning. And I see Wayne's on with us as well. Don't know if you've got a mic, Wayne.
Hi guys, but my roommate is sleeping because I'm in China, so I
No
can't
worries.
keep very loud. Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us in the middle of the night.
Yeah, it's cool that, we can hang out worldwide.
International, baby. So, speaking of which, Zaid, you're on your travels and you've done some updates as well, haven't you? I was saying to Andrew, I've got quite a sore throat today, so I hope not to have to do much talking. But I know you've got stuff to talk about. Would you like to lead?
Yes, hello. Good morning. Do you want me to talk about the upgrades in my game?
Anything you like.
Okay. Well, before I go into my game, I think important things to discuss in this meeting is first the visibility of our apps. I think this concerns everyone. And the second thing is, I forgot. I had it all in mind. Yeah.
Well, no
But
worries. It's a
either way,
great starting point because I think we did once before discuss the app discovery app that exists for Tango, and I'm not entirely sure what it takes to become a curated member of the apps that are presented. Does anybody have any idea?
So this actually kind of segues. Last night I watched the developer Daydream monetization IO video for the first time, and that kind of went into a lot of at least just general VR UX visibility things that you can do to kind of make an experience that would get featured in the Daydream store. And so that, I mean, feels like a core component of it's like doesn't feel fully, but the Daydream Play Store feels like where a lot of these Tango apps will end up living. So
It's quite hard, isn't it? You can't just search for Tango apps. You can't filter by device as a consumer. I think that's why.
I have found that like just searching Project Tango though does lead up to quite a few of the Tango products, but it's not like it's definitely a filter by the technology would be a lot better.
Well, I think that this app discovery app is an attempt to tackle that. I just don't know what it takes to get your app added to that list. I mean, Sam, that's you, isn't it? And your app's downloadable and already been called out by Johnny Lee as really impressive. So, if anybody reaches out to you about how to, or about whether you'd like to be involved in that, share the knowledge.
Yeah, no, I definitely will. I mean, I'm just wondering if that thing hasn't been updated in a while, because I don't think like the apps that are there have changed. It doesn't seem like it's a rotating roster or anything at this point.
Yeah, that's true.
can we create like some sort of our short reel, like if everyone has his own apps and then we record, let's say, 15-second video and then we put it all on one video? Could it be a good
Community show.
media? Yes, but at the end of the day, we will still have to. Actually, there is two concerns. First, of how to make our apps visible just for Tango. So I like the idea of the Discovery app, that it separates or segregates between our apps, or like the Tango capable apps and the regular, Android store or Google Play Store apps. And I think this should be addressed, because even if our apps are going to be visible on the Android store, it's not enough. It should be in a separate, separate store for it, like the Google, what's called Daydream, for example.
hey, yeah, Zaid, I completely agree. And actually, in this I/O presentation, the presenter was talking a little bit about how we're just at the tip of the iceberg when it comes to like VR searching. So like right now in Android, if you end up actually in Android, if you search for an app that you're looking for, you're gonna get like a very close, like you're gonna know exactly what to search for. But for VR, users don't really know right now like what to search for. Like you get a Tango, and no one knows that like the best Tango apps are these, motion tracked new experiences. They're just going to search anecdotally of what they know from normal Android, which is interesting.
Wouldn't isn't there a way to help that by including Tango in like the keyword or whatever the Play Store uses to just like find things for you?
I think that prevents other Android devices that don't have Tango from downloading Tango apps, but I don't know that that helps with the search. It just stops like people who don't have Tango.
So it's a rule out, but it's not a rule in. Okay.
That's right.
Yes,
what you might
but
be referring to there is you can put metadata in the manifest to say that your app requires, I think it's uses library is the XML tag, to say that you require the Project Tango libraries, and then the app will not be displayed on other devices' Play Stores. It will still be displayed in the web Play Store, but it will probably say something like this app isn't compatible with your device. So that's a one-way filter. But what you're saying about metadata and keywords and all the other rubbish that you do for search engine optimization, I guess still applies.
yes, but the thing is still, I don't think it's a good idea to have our apps. Let's say even if it was on the Google Play and the user had to go and press Tango, I think it's 2 steps, and not many users might get it at least from the first time. Like, do you see what I mean? It's like the 6 times tap thing when you want to become a developer. It's not an easy thing to know, and it's a bit time consuming. So if it was a one-time thing like the app discovery, I think it's much better.
Yeah,
I certainly
totally.
agree with that. I just meant a solution in the meantime, kind of thing.
So an interesting thing that like totally worked for me, at least early off, and I think it still is totally viable, is like just really good app descriptions of that your app is a Tango app, like kind of basic SEO stuff, putting, Tango keywords in relevant places, and then like, having a really good app that's very useful. Well, at least at first, a lot of people will probably get this phone on the first day and search like, oh, what are the best Tango games for me to play? Like, what are the best Tango apps for me to use? And if just in that search they pull up some information that, they pull up your app. The first app I published, Tango Coaster, is at like 1,000 downloads because it is one of those apps that when people search Tango, it's like now the 20th app that appears. So it's just interesting.
That's it. I think you've got a huge head start on people, Andrew, because you've been doing this longer than most people. So I think it organically gravitates to the top. But certainly for new developers and new releases, visibility is a challenge. I think that...
Yeah, totally. It's interesting like what the algorithm is.
I don't think there's anything tailored particularly to Tango. I just think it's a real shame you can't search by the same device filter as a consumer on the Play Store. Only show me things that are specifically...
Well, why don't we, as Tango users, communicate that as a group to Google?
Boom! It's a great idea.
Yeah.
Should we create a document in the meanwhile, like what's called Google document, where everyone can post a link for his app, and then everyone can see it, at least in the community?
Yeah, I mean, the GDocs is a nice way to do things. There's the wiki. I'll give a shout out to the Tango team, actually, because they posted a link to the wiki this week on Twitter. There's an apps page on there that has links to, for example, Andrew's page, and the way that I've set those links up is actually searching by publisher, so you'll get all of the apps when you click on somebody's name. But the easiest thing would be if people want to throw it in there, and we can say to the Tango team, why don't you pick the best of these to refresh your app listing? Well, that would be my proposal. Anyway, the wiki's tango.atap.wtf.
Strange question. What does WTF means?
Means what the
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Okay, now I see it. Okay, I see. Now the thing, for me, it looked like, the regular WTF, but I thought like, what does it have to do with the Tango?
No,
That's just me being stupid.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
I think it's just the first thing most Tango users exclaim after they, turn it on.
That's what happens when you have a drift.
So, Chuck asked me to talk about my app. I've made an update. Of course, my app had a great number of downloads, and what's it called? It's currently in the alpha stage, and I've been updating it on a weekly basis. So in the latest update, according to Chuck, I've added a location marker. So because my game is okay, I should actually have explained it. My game is a first-person viewpoint game, which the user is in some sort of an arcade. So your actual, like, the physics of the game, that you are actually a character in a space and gravity applies to you. So you have to know where are you standing in that space, and not many users have been able to identify where are they standing in the virtual space in accordance with the the real what's called the space. So I've added some sort of a location marker that could be adjusted by a slider. So when the user starts the game, they have to match this location marker or feet locator with their actual feet, and then they can play the game freely. And the second great update about it, I thought, is adding location markers. One thing, like in most of the games, like HTC and other platforms, I think, that makes it easy for the user to understand that they can walk around the use of the headset. It makes it very clear that users can look around and sometimes even can walk forward, or walk around. But for Tango, I've found that many people had difficulty with this. Not necessarily in the Tango community, but regular users who has never used the Tango. So as a solution, I added like something called location markers. So it's a marker that's gonna show you where to look for things that are outside the screen. I have found it very helpful with 3D navigation. Like especially as like with the zombie games or other games where you are having a 360 environment around you, but a small window. When you are wearing a headset, you have a wider view, a wider what's called perspective or a view. But with the Tango, it's like a small cutout of the virtual world. So I had to add some location markers. So the user, okay, walk there, be aware of this. I thought it's a great idea. You could download my link from the Google Plus forms and try it out. And one last thing, it was from Waldo. Since my game, like most of the games are played on, of the Tango games, are supposed to fit in a room, my game does not apply to that. The way I designed it is that it can extend beyond the room, but you'll have to pause the game, reorient yourself, and then the game does the reorientation of the virtual world. Does anyone has questions or have questions?
The only question I have is for your location markers, were they something like part of the game, or were they something that would take the user slightly out of the game to tell them, like, okay, you have to look over here? Or was it like, you know, how video game developers tell you to go this way by painting something on the wall, like an arrow or whatever? Is that the kind of thing that you used, or something more blatant?
Yeah, last week I used the one that I had something painted on, like on the air. It was just flying text. But this time, let me find the asset store for it. This time it's an actual moving label in your screen that teaches you where to look, and once you look at that, angle, you can see that the label is there. Can you just give me a minute? I can show you from my laptop.
It's no problem. It was just a general question.
Yeah, it's fine. Just give me 1 minute. I'll bring my laptop, and then it's how can I see? Maybe I can find it in the asset store. Wait, it's called location markers.
Oh, fine. Easy enough to find then.
Yeah, location markers and then asset store. I used the plugin. I didn't write the location markers.
Okay.
Unity asset store.
Thank you very much, Saeed.
Thank you. But the thing is, like, the arrow would show the things that are out of the screen. Where are they? Until you look at them, and then it places a marker on that object. Do you see what I mean?
Yes, I do. I think it's a great idea.
Yep.
Because the forum moves that quickly, you might want to repost the link, Zaid, to the download for people, because I guess we began by talking about how hard it is to discover apps. So maybe if you reposted the link, and also if you find the Unity Store asset link as well, you could add that in the comment below the main post.
I'll do. But the thing, I felt like I'll be spamming everyone if every week I'm gonna have updates and then like post it again. I'll do.
I don't mind. I don't know if anybody else really does.
Yeah, it's more interesting than some of the content that most of the content that gets posted on it.
And thank you.
Zaid, I want to say the UX stuff that you've implemented. It seems like these are huge, you know, like at least like these gaps that you're getting over with the UX stuff. My question is, like, you mentioned that some of the non-Tango people like didn't understand the app at first. Like, could you talk a little bit about that and like anything that surprised you from like just random people that have no Tango experience using the app?
Yes, there are many. Maybe I've mentioned them before, but the most shocking one is that I showed people a video on how to play the game. And this is in one of the competitions actually, and it's the reason why I lost the competition. And then I gave them the game with a text that said walk forward, and what they did, they kept pressing on the screen, gave me the tablet back, and they said, sorry, your game doesn't work. So I felt if it's literally, that's why I came up with my 3 seconds rule. If try to give your app to people, don't tell them how to play, just give your app to people. If your app does not communicate it within 3 seconds, maybe 5 seconds max, then that's a problem. Because even when you tell people that they can move around, they still play it like they still don't get it. You know, they try to walk forward, but they think that they cannot turn the device. They are kind of anxious when they use the device the first time because they still don't know how does it function. And even when they know, there are still many other problems, like especially with the navigability. If there is no, you know, if you cannot turn it into a 3D, like a 3D headset, then the field of view is narrow, and that's one of the problems I'm having with the Tango. You can see only the things in front of you, but not necessarily above you, a little above you or a little below you. cannot see the things in the side. This is also a problem because the user does not know that they are supposed to navigate their environment. Do you see what I mean? Like you are, like for you as a designer, you know how the whole level looks like. So you throw something in the right, you throw something in the left. But for the user, when they start the game, they only can see in a very narrow window. And that window, they start like speculating what they are supposed to do. Also, the type of movements they are supposed to, like the type of input. So I have small holes in the ground, and most people think I must jump above this hole. It's a great idea. It's actually the natural behavior. But the two problems is, first, Tango cannot detect jumping, just for the fact it's like the way the plugin now works, it's a floating camera. In my case, there's gravity. So if the user wanted to lift the device up, I cannot consider that as a jump. The second thing, Tango will lose tracking, so it's not a great idea. So the type of movements the user is expected to to exhibit is still also, or like provide, is still vague for the user. There is another game I'm working on that could require the user to crouch. I believe the right word for it. So they have to sit in the ground or maybe like even sprint to get past some traps, and that's a trouble for me because, like, okay, so now how do you communicate that with the user? One last thing, like most of the things, I felt like you have to give the device to the user and see how they are going to behave. One interesting thing I noticed, that especially with mixed reality, they call it mixed reality or augmented reality, users do not know if they have interacted with something. Like, so they would press a button or stand up like on a tile or hit something, and they will not notice that unless that thing reacted to it. So it should, a little animation, produce a sound, and also the way they interact with that thing, they don't know. So once they understand, oh, I can move around with this thing, I can turn around with it, they start supposing that I can use my hand to catch things. And that's one of the major issues I'm currently having with the game. If I had a coin, I think everyone is gonna walk like Super Mario and take the coin. But the actual way, people start using their hand trying to catch the coin, and people are very clueless on what to do in Tango. So they do, like I would say in a regular game or a regular app or a regular website, the user would start playing around. But with the Tango, I've noticed people would freeze and like start asking for help. That's why, like, most of my game, like maybe I've made a simple game and I'm even trying to make it even more simpler or simplify it more, because I feel the real challenge is how to make something that's neat, comfortable, and could teach the user how to play the game without any suffering or without the hassle to figure out how to play this game. And because I've always made this, I'm not sure if it's true or not, but with the HTC Vive, the user has to keep turning around, if I'm not mistaken, and this could turn away the users, even with the Oculus Rift, and sometimes even with the headsets. Like you have a certain amount of time you have to use it, and then you cannot. And certain, like if the user feels not comfortable with the game once, for a small something, like for a small thing, even if it was the music, if the music was too loud and too repetitive, with time they are gonna start disliking the game, and that's what I think most of our apps are lacking. It's just user friendliness.
I really like
And
that
that's it.
idea of the 5 second rule of, like, I mean, it might be a bit too extreme. 5 seconds might be a little extreme, but I think that's a really good thing to aim for. It's like getting the user to understand it within 5 seconds or in a very short amount of time.
The thing is, in a few years from now, like, this is what I see. Everyone is gonna be like, of course, this is how an augmented reality or a virtual reality game is supposed to be. Why does your, let's say, why do your app does not have like this or that, so people will have a general idea of how a virtual reality or an augmented reality game is supposed to be. And if it's not within 3 seconds, they're gonna think this game is not ergonomic or not user-friendly. But what I'm trying to do, maybe it's a bit extreme, as you said, I'm trying to impose that rule from now. So my hope, and like once there's a Tango store and the user gonna go to the store, I know that we are lacking the great ideas of how to use the device, but at least want to have a user-friendly device app. So at least for me, that is what could compensate for the idea part of the Tango.
All right, Zaid. Two things. First one is, like I said before, I've got a sore throat, and I'm actually getting messages that the Hangout is full again. And due to the nature of the way this is hosted, I take up 2 slots. So I think the best thing for me is going to be to disconnect from this call and be a listener only, so somebody else can join on. But we are privileged, I'd like to say, because I can see somebody's on the call who I've not spoken to, has not spoken to us before, but Cyrus is one half of a production team that we had Aaron Polka on 2 weeks ago talking about their stuff. But if anybody's an expert in this new emerging market, I think that the guys together, Cyron, I believe they used to be called, they won the entertainment category in last year's Google App Developer Contest. And Cyrus, is it possible for you to join us today? Oh, I see you. Look at you with your toys. Do we have a microphone for you, Si? And I can see Aaron's with you as well. Can't hear you. Nothing yet.
Silent but beautiful.
What can we do about that? Yeah, you're unmuted, but it's probably your input routing or something on your computer. Well, yeah, if it's all right with everybody, I'd like to drop off the talking login and hand it over so there's a free slot for anybody else to join. Oh, and is that somebody on? That's Raf. All right, guys. So here you go.
Yeah, thanks, Chuck. Thanks for hosting it.
Thanks, Chuck. I think we were waiting on Cyrus here. So, Cyrus, you got something to say for us, buddy? I guess he's busy at the moment.
Sometimes silence is key.
Yeah, so I guess just to backtrack a little bit, Zaid, just to go back, just while we're waiting, just to go back to Zaid's point of, I think, you really summed up like a lot of these UX usability things that the Tango provides, or the Tango doesn't provide, and like the idea that we're trying to ship these devices that like give the promise of like motion tracking and a lot of these things, but in most cases they don't even work like in low light, or the user won't understand that if they move too fast or jump, for example, that they're going to lose tracking. And I think that's like an interesting reality that seems like it might be fixed to some degree, but will still be kind of the case going forward. It's fascinating to me.
I'd agree with you too, Andrew. I think that one thing that one way I envision that getting fixed in the future, or in the near future anyway, for a while, is by using as many sensors as possible, kind of the way they do with GPS. You get a much better GPS signal if you have Wi-Fi, et cetera, on. And I think that with Tango, there are other sensors in the unit or other sensors they could add to the unit that would make tracking much more reliable and user-friendly.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see the updates that they've been making just to the ADF monoslam system seems like that's going to help a lot too. It is exciting that like in a couple of years, hopefully this stuff will get a lot better.
And hopefully you can track outside.
Yeah, tracking outside would be nice.
I've actually been able to track outside in direct sunlight. What seems to be indirect sunlight is where it, for me at least, I have a lot of issues because of just infrared pollution. But have people been having a lot of trouble tracking outside?
A bit-ish. I mean, it's not too. You can still track. You just can't get all the depth points and all that.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, Cyrus is back.
And no audio.
I think he's just really quiet.
Speak up.
Okay, no, it's not that he's quiet.
Yeah, I've totally had a great experience trying to do some tracking outside. The one thing that always gets me though is I go too fast and I lose tracking. So that's always been like a kind of like a, oh man, when is like high speed tracking going to be a thing?
Oh, also one thing that like weird little bug I've run into while tracking outside is I've been updating my pose with the sort of on the camera update in the current apps I've been doing. So what happens, I think, sometimes is if it's too bright and like the shutter or exposure time on the color image is too fast, it'll actually get ahead of the pose call. So it'll kind of jump around. So the solve I found for that was basically going by updating on the pose call instead of the texture call.
Oh, hey.
Hey, okay, so Cyrus and I are actually together today, so I just switched to my machine. It seems like it's having some audio trouble. Sorry about that.
Working now.
We're working now, so I'll let Cyrus say hi.
Hi, everybody. How's it going on a nice Sunday morning?
So we went to the Augmented World Expo in Santa Clara this past week. Was anybody else there? We didn't see a whole lot of Tango developers.
Unfortunately, I'm in Wisconsin, so that was a little outside my travel budget.
Fair enough. There was quite a bit of new hardware, but there weren't really any big surprises. We saw ODG's headset, which is pretty nice optics, 50-degree field of view, and a really crisp, nice, clear image. But there's no area awareness built in. But they did say that they have a support for adding modules, so that somebody in theory could add something like Tango or a structure sensor or something like that, a PicoFlex. You know, Cyrus is a big fan of PicoFlex. And ultimately could have something like a HoloLens headset built on an Android platform, but not yet.
Yeah. Yeah, let's see, the show. Actually, now that I think about it, there wasn't much that I came away with saying, okay, there was something profound that was, wow, this is great new technology coming out. Right now, actually, the biggest hit was HoloLens. So we showed up with our HoloLenses, and we became like, it was almost like going to a cosplay thing with wearing a Batman suit. So we put the thing on, and people want to take pictures. They all want to get on.
Uh-oh, we lost you.
Oh man, the suspense. That was a great story. So much suspense.
Well, we ended up having actually some interesting conversations as a result of that, and one a longtime developer that we had talked to, ex-Microsoft person, I won't mention his name since you know, won't throw him under the bus or anything, but he was talking about the mixed reality development, things that we're doing on Tango and things that we're doing with HoloLens that dovetails in with some of the things that you guys were just discussing about user interface issues of dealing with how to get people to move around and how to even get people to understand 3D spatial awareness and for their own purposes, because people have an innate sense of 3D space, but they don't necessarily conceptualize it and understand that how that relates to objects that are on this screen that they're holding in their hands in the case of Tango. And one of the things that came out of that conversation is that it just emphasizing how much it goes back to the principles of 3D game development. When you're building games, you think about collision volumes and you think about the rendering space as being two different things. And quite often that's a hard concept, harder than I guess we expected concept for a lot of developers and for consumers to understand. The collision space and the visual space don't have to be the same thing. In fact, they usually aren't in most games. And it's important that they aren't for the apps that we're developing in mixed reality too. You want to take advantage of the fact that you can have a different space that you move around in is different than the physical space, even though they're shared, if that makes any sense. Well,
Yeah.
what else is interesting, Cyrus?
What else is interesting? Well, I guess specifically with Tango, I don't know. It'd be great to get that hardware. Huh?
Yeah, so the announcement's supposed to be tomorrow, right? So we're supposed to find out more concrete details. You guys were discussing earlier about Daydream and about where these things fit into the store. I think the unfortunate truth, as we discussed on the last of these calls, that the new Tango device is likely not Daydream compatible. So we're without an OLED screen and without some of the other requirements being met, we're likely not going to see overlap there, and so we won't have the benefit of being in that in-app store, the Daydream store. And so instead, there are going to be some discoverability issues, but I don't think we need to worry about that too much. That it's going to be important to Lenovo to make sure that people are aware that these Tango apps exist, and so that people feel compelled to buy the hardware, and once they do buy the hardware, feel like it was a valid purchase and get the best use out of it, so that it continues to grow and other people see it. So I think they're gonna help us out one way or another, and I'm sure Google is thinking about this too, of how do we segment off and make it clear that there are Tango compatible apps. And it is tough if you do make it Tango only, then that closes off part of the market. If you have an app that can work with both Tango and non-Tango apps, that's better. But yeah, I think it is an issue, but I don't think we're gonna have to worry about it for too long.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Just to interrupt for 1 minute. Now I remembered what's the second. We are also having a problem to record a video of our apps or games, like again the root thing. And does anyone have a solution or have a proposal? Because we cannot mark. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, Cyrus has been using an app to record the.
I don't have it.
That's my Tango. But yeah, that.
I think it's called Record Me. RECME, and even though we're not running with the latest Android, if you run a little script, it ends up allowing you to actually record, and that's what we've been doing for Ghostly Mansion. That way, you're recording, on the device, and it gets a pretty good frame rate. I don't think there are any glitches or anything like that.
So I haven't used that yet, but Cyrus has had good luck with that. it seems like it needs to be rooting, but it doesn't permanently root.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what it's doing. I haven't poked at it, but so it's been working for Cyrus, and I would recommend people look at that. I've been using a Game Capture HD, which is actually a hardware device, and that takes the video straight out of the device and through HDMI, and then that goes into my PC. It's really awkward though. Like the videos I captured for Ghostly Mansion for the talk, I actually had to have somebody follow me around carrying a laptop tethered to the Tango. It was a bit silly. Yeah, I think that there are going to be other options once we get the Lenovo device, since it's going to have a more modern version of Android. There are more capture options, but I agree that's pretty frustrating right now.
There are also small HDMI recorders that are available. They're usually like a couple $100, but if anyone wants to, or if anybody's interested in spring for that, that might be also another alternative.
Yeah.
There is a Unity plugin. I forgot what it's called.
There's always Glass.
What's that?
I was just making a joke. There's always Google Glass.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I've done that. It's hard to get the right. Not too much light in the room, then I get all this reflection off the screen, and then I try to turn the lighting down, and then of course Tango goes crazy and says there's not enough light. So if you have a good environment with diffuse lighting, don't have overhead, maybe that could work. But yeah.
Yeah, you have to install your own like floodlights.
Yeah, with baffles, and we'll get a whole Tango capture environment set up. But you were saying there's Unity plugins, eh?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Let me find it, and it's a bit tricky and okay, I'm logging in.
Record now.
No, it's called. I'll find it. Where is it? Okay, so this is the Play Store, I believe. Yeah. Okay. Every Play.
Every play.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, that's interesting. So yeah, every play is a way for people to share their video game experiences with other people. They have I don't know if you can pull the video off directly. That uploads it to the Every Play network, which is like a social network kind of thing. But that's an interesting idea. The other thing I was going to say that's annoying about the apps that you use to capture is that they don't generally capture audio. In fact, I don't know of any that do unless they capture it over the microphone.
I think the
then you
record
get-
me was recording the microphone.
Which then you get the room noise, which is part of the reason I use the Game Capture HD. And that device costs like $100 or something, but again, you have to then walk around with a laptop nearby or a super long HDMI cable.
Yeah. No, the problem with Every Play is that you have to have a good internet connection first. Second, yes, you have to upload first to Every Play, and then from there you send it to YouTube, and from YouTube you download it.
Yeah, I think the quality
and this,
is pretty degraded. So I guess depending on the use of that video, if you just want to give people a quick glimpse, that's probably fine. But if you're trying to capture something higher quality to use with your like app
now
on the app store,
another problem.
use that.
I see. No, but the thing with the high quality, I noticed that whenever you set in Unity, what's it called, the quality settings, other than fastest for Android, it just crashes. Anyone has the same problem?
We
It
haven't
depends,
just any.
depends on the app.
Yeah.
And a lot of what we're doing too is we're using I guess some pretty pretty gator things on ours. So.
Yeah, we push quite a bit on the use of shaders, probably more than we should. The tablet starts to get pretty hot, and some people were asking us if we had the depth camera on because it was getting so hot. We're not using depth camera for this. It's just because we're using too many shaders. We want it to look pretty.
It's okay so far. Not hurting.
So about the recording issue, Tim Swain on the Google Plus forums was telling me that you can record ADB over Wi-Fi. Or when your Tango's hooked up to ADB over Wi-Fi somehow. I haven't looked into that, but that could be an interesting option.
It's the same as any other device over ADB over Wi-Fi. It's a little bit slow. There's definitely latency inherent in anything over Wi-Fi, obviously, but it's even slower than most Android devices that I've debugged over Wi-Fi. The USB cable is just, or an HDMI cable is just so much more fluid.
But that's an interesting point. If you can do that, because I've used that for screen capture, it never occurred to me to use it for video capture. But if you do that, then you don't need the Game Capture HD device that I was talking about. You could just plug in and just ADB over USB and then do a video grab. Again, I don't think you'll get the audio, but
you won't.
Yeah.
I can promise you won't.
Yeah, so that's a trade-off. If depending if you want to capture a bunch of stuff and then drop a music track over it after you edit it, that could work. But yeah, I think there is no optimal solution that doesn't involve wires at the moment.
Unless you want to completely rewrite your rendering path and use media codec. Sure.
I have one thing to complain about. When you run OpenCV on Tango, you ever see that it's the camera, like if you look at the camera preview, it's slightly discolored. So like we were trying to scan orange buckets for our competition, but instead the buckets were like pink, and OpenCV would never scan them, and also after like 5 minutes of use of the app, Tango would like overheat just by having OpenCV. And when we removed OpenCV, it works. OpenCV just causes so many issues on Tango.
Is the color of the bucket in OpenCV different than when it's just displayed naturally? Because the dev kit's color reproduction is pretty wonky because it lets in too much infrared light.
No, even without OpenCV, still.
Yeah, there's like a lot of infrared light that comes in through the camera. So I found like I have a couch that's like almost black, and then when I look at it through Tango, it's like light blue. So it might be that.
Could be.
Has anybody tried any IR filters? Okay, I was just curious. It just occurred to me right now. Try and slap one on there and see if it can reduce the noise.
Probably would.
I've heard from many trusted Google sources that Lenovo phone should be as bad as the Development Kit. The camera should be better. And well, that's about all I asked, so that's all I got.
Well, Aaron, you were saying that you heard that they're going to move to time of flight instead of structured light for the Lenovo, right?
That's what I've heard. I don't know if that's been confirmed yet.
I think Johnny Lee said that in one of the talks.
Change things, characteristics, and all that stuff of how the data is received.
Yeah, that was mentioned in one of the Google I/O talks, so maybe it is confirmed. Yeah, that'll change things up a bit.
So yeah, there'll be a whole new set of problems. I used a lot of time of flight when I was doing Intel RealSense development, and so it'll be interesting to see what happens because there are different range issues and things like that. But overall, yeah, I'd love if the scanning rate somehow they're able to improve that. A while back, before they canceled it, there was going to be the RealSense Tango phone. And when we were talking with Intel about that, the difference between the two is that Intel was running at 60 hertz for the scanning, which is excellent. You're moving around, it's all very good compared to the 5 to 7. Or
something like that. It's 4 or 5 frames a second, whatever we're getting on the depth camera on Tango, which is actually, it's interesting. The HoloLens also only goes about 4 or 5 frames a second
Rip your video feed for a minute there.
for how they're using that data,
There
then
you go.
yeah, then they're able to be with Tango at the moment.
Yeah. Same thing with structured sensor. That's really fast. That's like about 60 hertz. So
It's 30.
oh, is it 30?
It's still
Okay.
still 10 times.
Yeah. It's nice when you don't have to really slow down. But that's the thing when you do your development for apps, you keep in mind, the scanning rate and the kind of thing that you're doing. So the Ghostly Mansion, it just kind of worked out. We didn't think about that at the time. That great, a nice you scan around kind of works with it, but later on it's like okay, great, that seemed to work out. But I know you're doing that first-person shooter, and a lot of times with first-person shooter, you're running around, you're looking fast and stuff like that. So you might want to think about other things that you could do. I don't know whether you want to slow it down, but realize that the act of a first-person shooter is going to cause people to really want to move fast, to react, to turn around. And the Tango, at least currently, won't be able to keep up with that.
Yeah, I know, Zaid, you talked about doing more stealth in your zombie game at some point, and yeah, you may find that's easier than trying to do too much Twitch gameplay. That was something we suffered with a lot in one of the early prototypes we did. Other than Ghostly, we did the monkey pirate thing, and that was a big problem. Trying to gameplay made people zip around and run around real fast, and just losing tracking.
Yeah, and also with the what's called actually the zombie game Fist, when I started a year ago, it was a first-person shooter. But as you said, people cannot let's say shoot and run. They can either shoot or run. That's one thing. But actually, your game, the Ghostly Mansion, I use it for usually as the first app to introduce people, even before my game, to Google Tango.
Oh, cool.
I think it's a great game. It's a great example. It's at least fully finished. It's, I believe, one of the very few fully finished level-based entertainment apps or games out there. It's just like a few comments, if you don't mind.
Please. Yeah.
Because I feel the game is just a bit dark. I feel that's the theme, but if
you're not wrong. Yeah, it is too dark, and it's actually something we're going back and redoing the lighting.
A feature, we swear.
It's a feature. It was a tricky thing. We wanted it to be dark and moody, but it's too dark because you have to have lights on in the room and you can't see. So we're actually going through and rebalancing that. So we appreciate that. If you have any other comments, bring them on.
No, I see. Yeah, it's just the field of view is too narrow. I felt like when people start holding the device, most of them hold it with a slanted angle, like any other mobile game. They don't hold it forward in front of them. So the first thing they see is the floor. And the floor is dark, so they don't like. But once they start to get a hang of the game, they like it. That's what I say. So cool. I think it's a great example. I tried to learn from it, and I like one of the best comments I usually get from the users is that the graphics in your game are great, and believe it or not, but most people care about the graphics, which is something I didn't count for.
Yeah, people do, and that's nice to hear. But yeah, it's good feedback too. We know that it is tricky, that depending on how people hold the device initially, it changes a lot what their experience is, what they can see. So yeah, it's a good point. And like you guys were talking about before, it's really interesting when you hand somebody Tango that's never held it before. You do get a wide range of different behaviors that people do, and it's initially often really hard to get people to move at all without some kind of prompting. But I'm hoping, and Cyrus and I were talking about this when the microphone wasn't working, that we we hope that Lenovo is going to help us and get the word out and help promote that this is what Tango is good at, and that we won't have to completely educate people, that they'll only need a little bit of prompting.
It's interesting that you brought up the FOV. You know, we just kind of said it, and I don't think that it just kind of worked out at the time, but it might be something we could play around
Yeah, we could
with.
look at that.
Kind of peak the meter on the FOV. Maybe we go a little bit wider, something like that. Play around with it.
Well, I think I just wanted to agree with a lot of what was said. Is your game's textures? I didn't even know how you guys managed to fit that in there at the time. Like it looked just really nice, and it was a really great way to show people who weren't familiar with Tango how it works. Like I've used your game as a tutorial almost for people because in general it's very intuitive. The only thing that I was going to say has already been discussed, and that's you look at the floor. I was going to say like put something like you're like look up or but I just wanted to commend you guys for a great job.
Oh, thanks a lot. That's really nice to hear. And yeah, it's a good point. It's something we can think about putting in some contextual stuff that if people are looking at the floor, given a bit more time, we can think about trying to get people righted. And right now we don't have any kind of contextual thing. We give people some prompts, and the only contextual thing we do have is if you're too far away. But if people don't move at all, it's something we had talked about before, that we might want to do what we would normally do if we're standing next to somebody, which is you watch them standing there and they're just looking around, and what you would do is say, you gotta move. And so we may just have the screen do that if we don't see them translate over a certain amount of space. Just say, hey, wake up, you gotta move.
The other interesting thing that feels like addresses the movement problem is just the idea that motion tracking is going to be by default unanimous in Android 6.0. So like one thought is maybe a couple years or like a year or two in the future, most flagship phones will be able to do some sort of this motion tracking, making it more mainstream. But
when I was talking with people at Google, they were saying that Tango's definitely going to stay for a while, and they're trying to integrate Tango into the latest technology. So hopefully, like Lenovo phone is the first step, and maybe we get better devices. People finally start understanding. Like I was at school, and I gave my friend the tablet, and I launched Zade's game. He's like, "What do I do?" I'm like, "You move." So he moved. He's like, "This is great." One thing he didn't get was he's moving, and so he walks straight into the wall, thinking that this is him, right? He's just walking, hits the wall.
There's a movie that came out last year, Tomorrowland. It didn't get high ratings, but it showed the dangers of virtual and the real world. You're running in the field, all of a sudden, wah! And you go down the stairs. It's like, oh, horrible.
Right. Well, I think I actually wanted to address the group with this question, and I've been thinking about it a lot, but I think that a lot of the augmented reality stuff that people are working on and the virtual reality stuff are going to merge. As soon as that hardware hits consumer hands and people are more just familiar with it in general, I really see how VR and AR are no longer going to be very distinct. And I was just wondering if you guys agreed.
I kind of agree, but I think, without mentioning any app name, there are a few apps out there that I still don't know how to use them, honestly, and that I feel is kind of a problem. But it could be. You never know. The thing I feel people have high expectations of what a quality app is, and that's the little part I would disagree with. Like they expect, I mean, like people nowadays, they think that new technology can do anything and it's perfect, and the fact that there are any technical aspects about it, especially with electronic devices, they would dislike it right away.
Yeah, what's interesting recently, especially with the HoloLens, the idea that, and with other technology, the idea that a lot of the sensory devices can have the ability to export their scan data and a lot of telemetry and all this other information to other non-scanner devices can allow somebody who's wearing, let's say, the HoloLens to actually send data to people on cell phones that are just using accelerometers to go through and actually place augmented reality objects onto the resulting mesh, all this other stuff, and collaborate back and forth. And in a way, I'm thinking that at that point, the scanner device actually doesn't need to be on a person. It could be on a robot or a drone, and that's just going around just grabbing all the data, and really what you're doing is you're doing all your stuff through this this now environmentally informed virtual reality scene. So yeah, there's going to be definitely a crossover, and I think it'll be interesting that you'll find that AR becomes the data input for all the VR.
Yeah,
and
that's the kind of thing I meant.
I do rescue robotics with Tango.
Yeah, it's kind of like GPS, where the satellites would become the drones, in like the analogy.
Exactly. Yeah, pretty much. It's just like that. People shouldn't be wearing the sensors. It's gonna be robots and everybody else, and then we're gonna take the data and we're gonna be able to do things inside of that.
Yeah, I think it allows for a lot of different possibilities. That's what we've been having a lot of fun with playing with the HoloLens and with even if you look at the basic HoloLens Skype app, allows you to Skype to somebody that doesn't have a HoloLens, and they can actually do markups in 3D from their 2D screen into your environment. And it gives you a taste of the kind of stuff that you can do. But if you give them the whole mesh instead of just a little snapshot view into it, then yeah, like you're saying, the blending between AR and VR, you put somebody else in a Vive, and they can visit your actual physical environment that you're scanning with your headset with the drone. If you don't yank it off your head and put it on the drone instead, there's a lot of fun stuff that we can do in combining these things together. And I don't know how much Google wants us to combine with HoloLens and how much HoloLens wants to combine with other sensors, but everybody's going to have to get along.
The thing is that being able to put the Tango sensoring devices onto drone. One thing that was interesting, it was maybe 2 months ago, Beijing was showing the hover cam. I don't know, I think some of the videos got out here to the US too. Basically, it's a small drone about the size of one of these that's just kind of folded, and it's got SLAM on there, so it could do a lot of visual tracking and things like that. And it's able to do, follow, obstacle avoidance, and all this other kind of stuff. And I think waypoint navigation. And the idea, I think that would be great, is that you got this program to go through and do the scan the way it needs to be, perfect enough or with best practices. Let that scan for you, and then you could go and do whatever you want with that data. But I think that's going to be kind of interesting. You could just program that to go and do it the right way instead of us, going, okay, got to do this. Scanning is a chore.
Get our scanning Roomba.
Yeah. Who really wants to do that? Give it to the robot.
You guys are like reading my mind here, so I'm glad to hear that I wasn't completely off track on that idea.
Awesome. No, yeah, we're the same page.
Yeah.
Actually, especially with the drones and the quadrocopters, I feel there is a huge similarity between it and with what's called the Tango. I remember when I was a kid, everyone used to dream about cameras flying and following us. But now this technology is out, and I don't feel like anyone cares about like quadrocopters. Yeah, they're just a cool thing, but like they are actually becoming illegal.
Well, there are actually privacy issues here in the U.S.
Right. And people are shooting them too. That's fun.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
it's been happening
Yeah,
the past year or two.
it's
You know.
it's actually, I know in my country currently they don't care if there's a camera or not. Any flying unmanned object is just illegal. And if you need
Oh, I think
to,
you
that's
dropped
what I
out.
heard. Yeah, and if someone needs to fly any drone or they need to go to civil aviation and get a license for it.
Yeah, see here it's based on weight. The FAA, I believe, has a certain threshold at where if your drone doesn't meet it, you can fly it without a specific license, and it's actually illegal to shoot at any airborne objects, plane or quadcopter. But people are going to do it anyway.
There's also a lot of issues in the U.S. with commercial intent, where if you intend to make money off of what you're doing with the drone, it's illegal. But if you don't intend to, like if you shoot something and you're not intending to make money off of it, but you capture something newsworthy, then you can sell that. It's like a lot of weird, complicated loopholes right now.
But there's so much you can do with Tango and quadcopters and ground vehicles. Like I know UCI, my friend Alex, they're working on an indoor navigation robot after we started working with our rescue robot for that competition that UCI also hosted. And so they eventually they want to have that robot outside with like quadcopters. Quadcopters have tangos and the robot has a tango and it just all communicates and tries to navigate.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, the Phantom 4 is pretty amazing for its sensing abilities.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the drones with built-in sensing ability. Oh, those are. Yeah. I'm talking about what I can afford on a shoestring hobby budget. Like, there's no way my significant other is gonna let me spend more than like $200 at a time. You know.
Well, an interesting point that was touched on earlier is like this stuff is hitting the floor. Like the Phantom 4 costs $1,400 and is the first autonomous sensing consumer drone. But this one from China that was mentioned earlier, that was shared on social that I think I saw was like a fold-up, SLAM-based, like notebook-sized drone. So it's exciting because it is about to become ubiquitous.
That's called the hover cam. That is exciting. I'm not really into the drone stuff because I just find it's a pain to control my
You don't want to have to
manual.
pilot it. They should do that themselves.
But yeah, something like
that's what
hover
Follow
cam.
Me is for.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, gentlemen, I have to take off for the afternoon, but I just wanted to thank you all for some really insightful points and just for the products that you guys have shared that have really inspired me to keep working on Tango and on sensing in general. So, thank you very much.
Hey, same here. Absolutely. This has been great. Hearing you guys and then getting a chance to talk a little bit too. We got to jump off as well, but it's been really nice talking and look forward to doing this again.
Yeah.
We'll see you in mixed reality.
Yeah.
Yeah. See you on Microsoft Holographic.
Cheers. Talk to you later.
Goodbye, everyone.
Peace out.
Bye.
Hey, Sam, you're still on the call, right?
Yes.
So I had some questions for MatchCam. So so I guess what would be the workflow to shoot like an augmented reality video?
Let's see. So I guess if you wanted to, the one workflow that I've been doing and have working well right now is essentially you'd shoot with the app. It automatically records the video and all the tracking data while it's going. It saves it onto the device's internal storage. External storage is basically the public storage on the internal drive under a capture folder. Getting that off can be a bit tricky. I've been using Android file transfer. There's a bug in Android 4.4 where if the device needs to reboot before Android file transfer can see the new files, which is apparently only in Android 4.4. It's not an issue with other versions of it. And then the tracking data is saved as a collada file, which in Blender you can import that straight in, and it creates a camera that has the exact same viewpoint per frame. So from there, then you can in a 3D app then render out as you need the video from there. But
Okay, cool. Yeah. So thank you. Yeah, I was the part that was missing for me was the whole Blender component, but yeah, that makes sense now.
And I'm also working on sort of there is a Collada plugin for After Effects, but I'm also working on a parser for After Effects for just importing just the tracking data. You can also, with the depth camera, place reference markers. But this weekend I've got caught up in doing a lot of camera stabilization, so I haven't had a chance to. I just kind of keep adding on a bunch of different camera projects and then picking them up when I can.
Yeah, totally. I mean, hey, that sounds awesome, and yeah, if an After Effects plugin would be amazing, but yeah, I think Blender is sufficient for now in this early dev.
Yeah,
cycle.
and also, I also had somebody email me asking me if they could, they wanted to get the tracking data just to have a sort of camera animation in their video game they were making in Unity, and then the data imports directly into Unity as well. They're all just null objects that are animated, and then he had to do an inversion on it just because of the way that Unity interpreted the data. But yeah, it was almost like drag and drop.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm gonna have to play with those files because I was shooting some video on Matchcam, but then I'm like, oh well, what's next? I didn't have the context. But
yeah, feel free to shoot me an email if you have any questions or if there are any snags or something weird happens.
Hey Sam,
Cool.
it's Chuck. Just couldn't resist dropping in to ask if you've ever played with the Adobe Companion app SDK. Because I think you could hit a number of the things that you've talked about just then all at the same time, and that one of the stumbling blocks is actually getting the data off the device. But if you were making use of the Adobe Companion SDK, then your app could be aware of an instance of, say, After Effects that was running, and you could maybe even stream this data live.
Interesting. I didn't know that was a thing. I'd been looking a little bit into After Effects, the plugin SDK, but I haven't heard of the Companion SDK.
Yeah, it's how you can make a tablet app to give you an extra palette or something like that, but it's actually quite a deep interface under the hood.
Interesting. Okay, I'm definitely going to look into that today.
I'll make no promises about how good it is, but it's there. It's worth looking at.
Oh, thank you.
So, how's the rotation stuff going? The tracking.
The rotation stuff is good. I was going to work more on this weekend. I was going to work more on the hyperlapse effect, but Johnny Lee posted a link to a paper about using a warp distortion for stabilization, and then I kind of went on a whole tangent trying to figure that out, and basically I now have positional stabilization sort of working with depth indoors. I'm still fine tweaking it and working it out, but and then the quality also it's potentially really, really good, and I'm still kind of playing around with it. But yeah, I'm also kind of tired because I was up very late and didn't sleep that much working on it. But.
So is this in Java or Unity?
Java. Right now I'm just kind of doing everything in Java just because it's the quickest way to get to media codec.
Yeah, you have it's the recording stuff and cool, interesting. Yeah, I'm excited to see your progress on that because I mean it really feels like the hyperlapse stuff with the rotation, what you posted last week, like that could work on any Android device or any iOS device. I mean, potentially or.
Yeah, it definitely helps. Having I also haven't played around with Instagram's hyperlapse effect that much. And they're basically doing the same thing, where it's using the orientation to stabilize it. I don't. Tango's actually the first Android device I've ever played with or developed for, so I don't have enough experience with the other accelerometers and gyroscopes to know how well they compare, but potentially, yeah. But the positional, like the 6 degree of freedom stabilization that I sort of have working now is like really, really smooth. Not perfect by any means, but yeah.
I haven't done a direct comparison, but I was assured by the Tango team that all of the data that's being used by Tango itself is also the data that's returned through the appropriate calls in the Android Sensor Manager API. So in principle, you should be getting the same values directly, i.e. from the same AMU. So if you did want to integrate any of that stuff, not that it's entirely worth it on the Yellowstone tablet, because the magnetometry is uncalibrated, it doesn't work, so you can't do like that sort of inclinometry type of stuff. And likewise with the barometer. But if you are writing in Java, it's very easy to just make calls to Android Sensor Manager.
Interesting.
Well, and I think this makes sense for doing like if this hyperlap app could be forward-facing consumer app if you chose to go that route, then like doing the rotation standard Android app that works on any phone hyperlapse, but then also having the Tango positional hyperlapse feels like the way to go. But who knows? I just can't believe you did that. So that's like one of those projects that's like, whoa, can't believe you did that so fast.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, there were all kind of things that I had going in my head, and it's sort of like where I've had the pieces separately for a while around. Like for my sort of Connect apps, I kind of had knew how to do stabilization with a depth camera, and then also from Matchcam, I had all the recording stuff, so I was able to kind of just piece that together pretty quickly. Yeah, I also kind of feel like a lot of these, to me, kind of felt like very sort of obvious apps or little uses of it, but they hadn't been done yet, so I just kind of felt like, why not? It also might just be me just being working with or just being a video-oriented person that I thought that they were obvious, and maybe they weren't that.
No, totally. It's really interesting. Like, and I think I said this in the G+ forums of like how much the Tango has the potential to like really be this amazing filmmaker's tool. Or as soon as you put motion tracking in phones, you can do like amazing filmmaking things that weren't apparent. And like, you know, it took me 5 years of film school to learn that. But it's just cool to see, like, yeah, someone at least doing it with Tango. And my question for you, Sam, is like, do you have is there like some master kind of film app that you're thinking of for like a consumer launch, or are you just kind of just hacking away at like random projects?
I guess a little bit of both. It would probably be a good idea to kind of like now or in the next month or so like regroup and kind of think like what would be the best thing to focus on first for consumer or like for launch, or just like what should get priority, because I feel like there are 3 main things that now that I guess I'm working on, where there's Matchcam, which is just getting the raw tracking data and video off of it. There's sort of the hyperlapse or stable cam app, and then also the one that I really want to do, which is I feel like much further away, just because a lot of the technology real time isn't there, is Next Stage, sort of the Connect app that I have, which is doing virtual production, like green screens and virtual sets and all that stuff. But that, being realistic, would take a lot of time and a lot of people to do right. So I'm kind of going to focus on the simpler ones for right now.
Awesome. Yeah, that's exciting. It was fascinating to read about that one, the one visual effects director who like was able to use Matchcam and like solve his problem already. That was amazing.
Well, I'm gonna hop off. I have a couple essays to write. See you guys.
See ya. Yeah, that might be natural ending point. I feel like it's just a couple of us now.
Yeah.
That's cool. I mean, I think everyone was very generous with their time, as always, and their information. So thanks to everybody. I know a lot of people watch it on YouTube as well without being part of the call. So thanks to all of them.
Also, Andrew, sorry, I just forgot. Andrew, how's your zombie app going?
So it's good. It's actually kind of funny. It was released on iOS on Thursday, and it turns out on like the iPhone 6 devices, it doesn't cardboard stereoscopic view doesn't work. So I was just kind of like I submitted an update yesterday to fix that problem, and I mean it got pretty good reception in the Google Plus or Google Cardboard subreddit. So I don't know.
Awesome.
It's kind of like this, like just like kind of run and gun. Like, okay, I don't know if the zombies is fully fleshed out yet, but I'm gonna switch over, work on some more abstract projects. And then like hopefully next week we get the date to actually know when we can backtrack all our day one apps from. So exciting.
We've got Mr. R joined the call. Hello, Mr. R. I think when you're on the call, when your mic's unmuted, it's causing a bit of an echo. But hello, anyway. Hi.
Hey, I just wanted to say thank you for the invite. It's been really nice to see and hear what everybody's working on. I don't get a lot of chance to see what other Tango people are doing, so very appreciated.
Well, I mean, it's never too late to introduce yourself. Would you like to tell us what you're doing?
Working on navigation and pathfinding, as well as some annotation kind of stuff.
Cool stuff. Are you working in Unity or Java? What's your poison?
I'm in Unity.
Okay, and how long have you been on Tango?
I guess the first time I saw it was all was it 2015? When it first came out, I saw it, and I got a free one when everybody else did at Unite last year.
Oh, okay. Did you develop something at the hackathon?
The hackathon at Unite or at all?
Oh yeah, sorry, my mistake. I didn't realise they gave them out at Unite.
No, no, not. They didn't. They haven't had not had a hackathon at all for a while. But in 2014, I did a hackathon there. But I've not done one for Tango. No, I was in the Tango contest in the summer, but I didn't get very far because I had contract stuff I had to do.
No worries. What was your app? Is it still online for people to look at in any state?
No.
Oh well. Have you got anything in the pipeline that you'd like to talk about?
No, not really. I mean, it's just nice to hear what everybody's doing. It's nice to hear, some of my complaints and problems with the device, being echoed by others. Yeah, I don't. Sometimes I feel like I live in a kind of an echo chamber, and it's nice to see some other folks working on this stuff.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, I think that sums up like, a pretty interesting idea that I'm sure a lot of developers share of like, well, I feel like I'm preaching, the canary in the coal mine saying like, oh, Tango is going to be big, and that no one else understands it, and like, talking with the developers, like you guys understand it, so.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody earlier in the week, and the way that I've expressed it to people before is that there's the opportunity to be a fish in a small pond at first. But their retort to that was that, well, you do know that the water's draining out of the pond. I said, well, that's a pretty negative way to look at it, but I'm optimistic. I realise that a lot of really credible developers have moved on to other platforms, but I think with the Lenovo device, I can already see the press push happening. I'm hoping that there will be a consumer awareness campaign by both Lenovo and Google, and hopefully we can ride the coattails of it.
It's not a waste of time, even if some of the limitations of the device end up crippling forward progress, which I don't really think will, but I think for the standard consumer, there are some issues, and even considering those, I would say it's not a waste of time because there's just there's a wealth of knowledge to be learned by playing around with these devices, and if it's not this one, it's going to be another one. Something else is going to come out that's going to change everything.
I'm optimistic this week that the Lenovo device and the specs it will have will represent quite a big leap forward from the Yellowstone that we're used to. I'm hoping that that's not going to present too much of a development challenge, and from what I've seen them doing with the SDK, refining, there's a hardware abstraction layer and so on, I think probably for Unity developers, your app will just run. And yeah, if everything's getting better, frame rates, depth resolution as well, then I think it could really give this a shot in the arm, which it needs, because the hardware's a bit long in the tooth at the moment, and if it came out exactly the same specs but with a modern phone, I'd be pretty disappointed.
Yeah, all good points. Thank you, guys. I'm going to go ahead and hang up. I'll see you guys next time. I hope I get an invite.
Hey, yes, well, just join the G Plus group and you'll get spammed with it when we create the event every week.
All right. Is that not the one? I think I'm a part of that. G Plus? Yeah,
G+.
yeah, the Tango G Plus. Yeah.
Hey, there's a developer meetup group that is what hosts the Hangout. So that's where you'll get auto-notified of the invite. But I tend to cross-post it to the main forum as well.
Sweet. Thanks a lot, everyone. That was amazing hearing everyone's perspectives. I learned so much.
Yeah, same. Nice to meet you all. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Great stuff. All right, I think that is coming on a natural ending. Yeah, Sam, Andrew, as always, thanks very much as well for keeping that moving today.
Cool. Thanks, Andrew and Chuck.
Yeah, thank you. Keep on doing cool stuff, guys.
Have a good week, everyone. Let's see you on the other side of the Lenovo announcement.
Oh man, we'll be in the future.
Cheers.
Peace.